What's happening there, YouTube? Genji here, and welcome back to the assembly line here on Arcadia 7. I hope you brought your hard hats, because today we're getting back to work expanding the functionality and the manufacturing capacity of our assembly line here. I do have some more tips and tricks to cover before we get started, but I guess we can start right here. So between episodes, I did a little cleanup here on the line. Whoa, a little bit of visual stutter there. It's been happening more and more as we have been adding more and more onto the assembly line here, but as you can see, I now have all of these harnesses that I'm bringing up to the second level, and that's just to kind of clean up a lot of the spaghetti that I had, bringing individual materials up to the second floor. Previously, I was bringing rail connectors above the level of the main bus, and then just connecting rails directly up to the inputs of the machines on the second level, and I didn't like the way that that looked. It looked kind of like loose wire strung around. So I went through and I brought everything down below the level of the main bus for taking items off of the bus. And for everything on the second floor, I'm actually bringing it over to the opposite side of the bus, just to a multi-connector, which then connects directly up to the top, just in kind of a reusable wiring harness for any materials that we're bringing up. And then all those are coming across the top of the bus, and then hitting a rail modulator, and then going into a rail connector that can be reused. And so the reason for that is so that if we had to double up, or in some cases triple up manufacturing, all of our, well, except for this one, of course, which is actually kind of perfect because now I can show you exactly how I did it. If it wasn't clear just from a visual demonstration, we'll grab one of these multi-rail connectors here. There we go. A little finicky. Drop this down, a couple is fine. Put one here up above. Connect each of the three multi-rails. Then on the far side here, we're going to go one out from the edge of the bus and use a rail modulator. Like so. And again, connect each of the rails on through. And in this case, it looks like we're using the same material on both. This is titanium bars for both levels. So I can then delete this line. And instead of going straight up, we'll bring this across to, well, I guess this will be the right if we're looking down the line. Doesn't matter which one we use since they're all being modulated down to one at the far end. Oops, I got too close to me. So now we can get rid of this. And we're going to move it over one so that it's directly in front of our modulator. Connect this on through. And then connect this here. And the reason for this is so that we have a standard way that we are delivering materials to repeated manufacturing. So if we need to expand this, if we have all of our lines coming directly into this machine, then we don't have a way to get it into the machines that are behind it that also need access to those exact same materials because they're all making the same thing. So if we do it this way, normally I've been doing it directly in line with the edge of the bus, so we can actually redo this a bit. Do a little cleanup here, just so it's the same everywhere. But we use the space in between each machine to bring our input lines and our output lines through. So we'll do the same here. We're going to move these in one. Like so. Fill in these gaps. And then we can connect inputs and outputs. So we've already got our input here. We're going to connect this down the line, and we can repeat this over and over and over again, regardless of how many machines we need to have in order to meet demand. But we can just feed each one of these to the input of our machine, and then the same on the output. Need more of these, actually. There we go. Output into the connector, bring it on forward, join all of our output up together before going into our storage depot. And there we go. So this is used the same way in each level of our manufacturing. Now, not everything is doubled up. The further along we get, the less I'm doubling it up. I have a suspicion that the further we get into the manufacturing tree, the more of every lower level component we're going to need to satisfy demand. But we know that we can expand as much as necessary as long as we have the flat ground to actually put the machines on. So we're going to use this configuration going forward, at least until we hit a machine that this doesn't quite work out on. I think the Mega Press might have 4 inputs, so we'll have to see how that's going to work out. We may have to get access to the 5-rail multi-rail before we can do that, which means we'll have to restring the entire manufacturing bus with 5 rails instead of 3 rails, which is going to be a little legwork, but it's not anything game-breaking with our arrangement here for the main bus. At any rate, that's what I've done here on the line. Now, as far as tips and tricks, I don't have as much as last episode, but I did want to cover one very interesting tidbit, and that is with pillar support. So I had said in the last episode that you can stack 3 pillar supports on top of each other, and while that is true, if I put this here, we can do 1, 2, 3, and then we cannot do a 4th. However, I had people point out to me in the comments that if you start with a supported platform and bring it up to its maximum height, and then place pillar supports, you can actually place an additional pillar support on top of that. So you can get this up to 4 pillars tall. I did a little playing around with this, and it turns out that you can actually create a 3rd tier or a 3rd level to our manufacturing, but it's not really as... it's not as clean, it's not as easy to build, and it does have some limitations. You can only use this with fabricators and with smelters. Once you get to furnace and beyond, everything is too tall to fit into these levels here, and you cannot expand these levels enough to have 3 levels that are tall enough to support the height of a furnace or a mega press or whatever comes after that. So if we drop a furnace, let's go back here so we can see the height line up. The furnace actually comes up just beyond the height of the deck here. So if you want to triple up your lower level manufacturing for like smelting your raw ores and all of your furnace manufacturing, you can, or not furnace, but all of your fabricator manufacturing, you can actually do that with a 3rd deck. And this configuration that I have here does actually allow for your input rail similar to what we just set up over here. And on the output side, it does allow for output back to the edge of the bus itself, so you would have to bring each one of these down into maybe a multi-rail connector like this, and then string these back onto your main bus underneath the bus line, however you want to do it. There's a few different ways I could think of off the top of my head to make that work. But again, we do have to stagger the storage containers because they're taller than the deck height that we need to make this 3rd tier work. And it's a bit ugly. It does require some staggering of your pillar heights in order to get the 2nd deck in there. So in order to get the 3rd deck in there, you do have to stagger some pillars to get to the exact height for that each of the decks need to be at. But here's just kind of, I'll circle around this so you can take a peek at how this was constructed. So it is possible. It does have some downsides, and you do lose that kind of extra height buffer for maintaining the level of your assembly line as the elevation changes around it. So if you had a steep elevation drop off, you would actually lose the ability to buffer up to the floor of your assembly line. The next row of assemblers have to be lower down than the rest of your assembly line in order to meet that new elevation. But there you go. 3rd floor, definitely possible. Not something I will probably use in our build here just because of the limitations of it. So that being said, let's go take a look at our corporate terminal and our recipe terminal. So, between episodes, we did complete our delivery of glass to Future Health Solutions, so let's just grab our inventory upgrade quickly. Nothing special we have to do here. Take a look at that. Nice, we'll bring all this down. I have some stuff I need to drop off, actually, and did a little bit of food gathering. And, in between episodes, I also went and I ran all over the map looking for stuff. So some new areas down here, some new areas up here, and I managed to locate the blueprints for synthetic silicon, electronics, and chemicals. So we're still missing hardening agent, and we don't need anything special for super magnet. We just need to get access to sulfur processing, which we're going to need, I believe, synthetic silicon in order to meet the contract requirements to unlock access to sulfur extraction. So I'm going to unlock these 3 materials, and we'll start the episode by getting manufacturing for all of these set up on the line so that we can continue through our corporate tree here. I think we're going to aim for, by the end of this episode, I want to unlock the Mega Press and see what it's going to take to get the Mega Press put into our assembly line, see if there's any special requirements, because I can see from the picture here that it does have 4 input rails. So that may complicate things. It may fit in nicely. We'll have to see. So, next step is we're going to need, for level 7 of Selenium Corporation, we're going to need either glass or synthetic silicon. We have glass currently, but I'd rather just do the next thing that we don't have access to yet, because we will need to get synthetic silicon set up on the line anyway. So, to unlock that, we're going to need a blueprint. We're going to need 600 ceramics, 800 calcium powder, and 2,000 helium-3. So we do have helium-3 delivery set up now, so that should make this a little bit less painful, and I think I do actually have just tons and tons of this laying around in the box.
Gotcha.
From all the times I've fiddled with the helium delivery here, so I'm going to drop off at least that much. See what that knocks it down to. Synthetic silicon. So now we just need 1,100. So we'll put our research points in. I'm going to go grab this stuff off the line, and we'll get synthetic silicon unlocked. And then we'll probably actually let's do synthetic silicon and electronics at the same time. That way we can do one on the bottom floor, one on the top floor, and get that whole build done all at once. So let's do electronics blueprint. And we don't have silicon yet. No, well actually, I take that back. If we need silicon for electronics, then we'll have to get synthetic silicon set up first and then come back and do this. So let me go grab this stuff off the line and we'll continue. And calcium powder. There we go. Synthetic silicon is unlocked. So, let's get back out to the line here. Now that everything's dark and ashy. And let's see. So we know this is going to take calcium powder, and it's going to take... This should be our ceramic. So let me double up production of both of those things. Let's get into drone mode here. We're going to grab the furnace. Put it here. And another furnace here. Like so. And we're going to need rail connectors to bring materials in. And to send materials back out. This is our helium line, bringing this in from outside the bus here. Repeat that here. Output lines, input lines. What's beeping? Oh, this is our bugged out drone that produces infinite wolfram bars. I've tried to like just grab these out of the air to see if I can empty it and get it to leave, but every time you interact with it, it just gives you more wolfram bars. Like that. So, I assume this is some kind of potentially a duplication bug. Although I don't remember exactly how it happened. I think I just deleted a rail and it just didn't delete. But there you go. So that's going to be stuck there forever. At any rate, we're working on this. So we're going to duplicate. Because this is already set up nicely for us, we don't have to do any kind of rerouting. We just need to grab the existing pole off of this rail connector. Bring it back to this connector. Connect it up. Do the opposite this way. So we'll bring this into here. Bring this. This is not a rail connector, but it's about to be. There we go. And into our storage depot. And then we'll have to repeat that right here. No, we already placed the furnace. It's right here. So this needs to be converted into a rail connector as well. Apparently I missed this, but this will let you see exactly what I did to clean up the line, I guess. So we'll bring this back in preparation, connect this through, just so we kind of complete a thought here. We don't jump around too much. Bring this back through here. Connect it up. Like so. Did I get this one? I did not get this one. There we go. We need to... I'm going to go forward a bit just so I don't get out of range on the drone tool here. We need to reorganize this. We're already bringing the top level manufacturing back. We just need to bring the bottom level manufacturing into this instead of into this. So not too bad. It's only 2 rails, so we might be able to... Well... Now let's just rail modulator it. So let's go into destroy mode. We'll take this down. We'll drop a rail modulator here. Bring it down. Bring this up. Disconnect this line. Try to do only one at a time so we don't forget to reconnect something. One here. And we'll take out this line. Bring this in. It's like the only one place it'll actually fit. That's fine. We can get rid of this. Drop this in here. Plug our gap. And there we go. So now we should be bringing in the same materials to each of these furnaces. So we need to set this to manufacture calcium powder. Let's plug this gap here. We should see materials, unless I need to save and restart to fix the rails, but we should see stuff start to float. Well, actually, we should be able to just touch this. Awaiting items. Okay, so they should be on their way. And there they are. The conga line has arrived. Alright, and then same for ceramics over here. Plug this. Awaiting items. Perfect. So now this is set up, we can make this as deep as we want to increase our output to meet downstream demand. So I think the other thing we needed was helium. We'll have to see if we have enough helium, but now we can actually build our furnace for synthetic silicon. So we're gonna have to build a new platform here. So let me get into drone mode. We'll start with the pillars. Actually, we'll start here with the bus itself. So this is going to be platforms 3, 4, 5. Multi-rail 3s. For now, we can't get this down enough, but that's fine. We can go up 1 and then bring it down 1 to match. So everything is level. Alright, here's our base platform. Let's copy our pillar, put this at the right level, Z-lock it, bring it in here. 1, 2. We're gonna need to Z-lock it down here now, right there. 1, 2, 3. The nice thing about discovering that you can do 4 pillars deep is that we can actually absorb a little bit more loss in elevation without having to change the level of our bus. Bring it across. And then... come on. There it is. Bring that through there. Now we need our back pillars. Lock the Z level. 1, 2, 3. That looks right. One more here. 1, 2, 3. Always remember the second back pillar, otherwise you won't be able to connect. You won't be able to build this whole deck. You'll get a not supported error in the middle there. Okay. Now we're ready to place our furnace. So we'll lock our height. We're going to go back 1. Then we can place our storage depot at the same height. Fill this in. We'll start with the rail connector this time so that we know it's extensible in the future. Unlock our Z height. And bring this on through. Now if we need to in the future, we can just easily drop another furnace in right here. Colliding with... oh, I'm standing there. We would be able to place that there if I wasn't standing there. Let me get back up here. We'll set this to manufacture synthetic silicon. So now we need to bring calcium powder, helium-3, and ceramics in here from our rail lines here. So let me get my spreadsheet up with what's on every rail. So helium-3 is on rail 1, which used to be titanium ore, but because titanium ore is not needed after the first stack, we can actually reuse rails 1, 2, and 3. And in fact, I think at this point we can reuse all of the rails on pole 2 as well. So we're inserting helium-3 onto our rail number 1 right here. You can kind of see our drone delivery receiver back there. Rail comes through and then just hops onto rail 1. So this is going to come all the way down to the end. And we're going to want to hijack rail 1. Drop a rail connector in here. Bring it down 2. Rail number 1. Bring this forward to rail number 1 again. And then we're going to want to bring this into a rail connector now. Oh, right, I'm not in drone mode. Because we want to be able to copy these materials or split these materials to go back to other manufacturing buildings behind, other furnaces to increase our output of synthetic silicon if needed in the future. So we'll wrap this through into here. We'll bring this up. We need 3 materials, right? So we'll actually need a rail modulator as well. So let's see if I can get away with doing a rail. Well, we'll need a splitter no matter what. But or a rail connector no matter what. We'll bring this up here.
I feel sick.
Give me a minute. I'm cooking. There we go. Now we need to get rid of... Let's go one further ahead. We'll do this. We'll drop our rail connector here. Drop it by 1 this time. We need rail number 1. Bring this down here. Bring this back to rail 1 so our helium continues downstream. And then let's see if we can wrap this through like that. Perfect. And now we have the option of sending all of our materials back this way if needed. So our next material that we need is calcium powder. Calcium powder is pole 6, rail 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to drop a rail connector, which means we need to get rid of this. A rail connector, bring it down 1. Let's see, we also need ceramics, which is on the same line. So let's bring this down more. So we can get another line over this. Rail 1 is calcium powder. Bring this into, say, here. Continue this on down the line. And then we're going to do the same with ceramics. We'll drop this down higher. So we'll, I guess, bring it down 1. And ceramics are rail 3 on this same pole. Like this. And like this. And bring this forward to rail 3. And then we should be able to bring rail 2 right on through. Perfect. So that's all we should need setup-wise for this production. And then we can just bring all of our other rails forward here. And last rail. And we have 1 rail left on our original 8 poles. So we're gonna hit the point here where we're gonna have to start reusing our rails, which is good, because this was something I mentioned about rail efficiency in the last episode. I put the spreadsheet together. I linked it several times in the comments, and I'm sure it'll get updated for this episode going forward, because I do want to try to stick to just 8 rails, and as items are no longer needed for any kind of future manufacturing, we'll just reuse those rails for something new further down the line. So we can use upstairs, you know, we can do a second row of rails if necessary, but I kind of like the way it looks with just 8, and I like having our kind of harnesses, our wiring harnesses coming up overhead, and not having to compete with space for an additional layer of rails, but we'll see what we can do. At any rate, we should have everything we need now to manufacture synthetic silicon here. So let's set this to... Oh, it's already set to synthetic silicon. It says unavailable items, which means that we'll have to do a save and reload. But let's set this to synthetic silicone, and then... Or I guess it's silicon. It's not silicone. There's no E at the end, right? Yeah, silicon. So I'm going to do a save and reset, and we should see that yellow light turn green. And there it is. Now we are at awaiting items, so we should see a little parade line of items flowing in here. Now, they are going to have to compete for space on this rail, but once the initial bursts of fill-up items come through here to fill up the internal buffer, all of this backup will go away. It's a little at odds with my original design philosophy of having dedicated rails from output to input for each item so that there was no rail sharing. However, we kind of have to throw that out the window once we have to start doubling up on manufacturing. So there's no such thing as a triple or a multi-rail connector, right? So if we want to split 3 rails worth of items into multiple furnaces, we have to put a rail connector for each individual rail, and that, while it is possible, you know, we would have something like a multi-rail going this direction, and then a rail connector, block height, 1, 2, 3, and then you'd have something like this, 1, 2, 3, and then you can pull each one of these off into one furnace, one furnace, one furnace, and then you'd have to do that again for each furnace that you wanted to. So if we assume that this rail modulator here is the input to a furnace, and this rail modulator is the input to a furnace, you'd have to bring each one of these out individually. 1, 2, 3. And now if we wanted to supply our second furnace, we'd have to put another set of rail connectors. And connect it. This is not going to really work, but the philosophy is the same. So we have to connect this rail connector to this rail connector, so we have to do some height adjustments. I guess we'll actually put this off level because we need to be able to string the rails over the existing rails to get to that. So 1, 2, 3. And we have to do something like this. Like, this isn't the way that I would do it for sure, but just as an example, for starters, I'd want this to go straight into this instead of coming around like this. But then we would have to go, you know, 1, 2... I can't even do that because of the way these are arranged, but you get the idea. We have to have an individual rail connector for each rail of the 3 incoming multi-rails and then bring it back out. And this just requires so much space. You could feasibly do it in the 5 by 8 grid that we have here, but it does hit a limit, right? Because you need 3 rail connectors for each furnace. Once you get past, like, I'd say,
so hungry,
even putting a 3rd furnace in, I think might be difficult with the amount of space that you have here, and that would be the hard limit because once you hit like 3 furnaces, you run out of space because you have to have a rail of rail connectors here, and then a row of rail connectors here, and then a row of rail connectors here, and you have to bring all that back over here into another multi-rail, and it will just become another tangled spaghetti mess. So I don't think that it is feasible for that way that this bus works. That's not even considering when we get to the Mega Press, which has 4, and then you're working with multi-rails of 5, so then you have 5 rail connectors for each of your manufacturing buildings. Again, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Like you can see here, that initial on-rush or in-rush of buffer filling items has already passed through, and now there's very minimal delay for traffic getting into this furnace, and more importantly, we're not choking up the rails themselves for items to get down to other items downstream that may also be using these same components, which is the main strength of using this main bus configuration. So let's take a look. We are making synthetic silicon. All of our buffers are backing up, so we're not under supplying any particular items. I'll go ahead and offload that ceramic powder. We're almost full up on synthetic silicon already, so we should be able to I'll grab these 2 here, and we're going to run back to the recipe terminal, and we'll see what we're going to need to unlock electronics, I think is our next target. So for electronics, we're obviously going to need silicon, we're going to need inductors, 200, easy, and we're going to need 200 stators. So let me grab those off the line, and then while we're out there, we can also set up some of these contracts for delivery. So we can't do chemicals yet. We're going to set up silicone delivery for Selenium Corporation so we can unlock a large habitat and then work our way towards the Mega Press this episode. And we can do heat-resistant sheets to Moon Energy Corporation. We've had access to those for a while now. That'll get us a base core amplifier for thermal capacity for the base core, which hasn't really been an issue for us, but we do need to get past this to get to more power options here. And eventually an inventory upgrade. And then Clever Robotics wants a super magnet and a nozzle, which I don't think we're going to get to this episode because super magnets require sulfur. And we're a little bit off from sulfur. Let me see. I believe, yeah, so it's going to be the level 9 Selenium Corporation. So if we get to that, we'll get to it this episode. I have a feeling we're going to have enough to do once we unlock the Mega Press. So that might be next episode to get to the next level of Clever Robotics here, but we'll see. So for right now, I'm going to grab these materials off the line. Inductors and stators, 200 of each, and then I'm going to set up OCLs to deliver some contracts here. I do like watching all the rails busy at work. Way more visually interesting to look at than a single rail bus system. I also had a commenter mention that they set up a kind of stack 0 for building materials, which is perfectly fine to do. Personally, I'm not putting building materials onto the main bus, but if you do want to automate manufacturing ammunition down the line for, I guess, to supply your defense towers, you could put building materials onto one of your actual stacks and then feed it into your main bus. But for my purposes, I'm hand manufacturing all of my ammo, so I just stuck a kind of a stack 0 here just for manufacturing building materials at the beginning of the line and feeding them into just a storage depot that I can grab building materials from. Oh. Well, that's interesting, huh? Synthetic silicon, despite being what I consider to be a higher tier item, is actually worth less research points? Well, in that case, let's do glass. So let me destroy all of this, and we'll reroute this. Actually, glass should be available on our line. I can just grab it off the end of the line here. So glass is Pole 7 Rail 3. So instead of grabbing directly out of here, we'll grab Pole 7, Rail 3. See how easy the bus system makes it? There we go. So now I can set up these to deliver glass to Selenium Corporation. And we may have to do a save and reload, we'll see, but let me set these all up. Selenium glass, Selenium glass, and Selenium glass. Yeah, they're at unavailable items, so I don't have 5 points already. Let me save and reload again. And there we go, we got green lights. I see glass flying out of the depot down there, coming on down the line. So that's setup delivery for Selenium Corporation. We're also gonna do, what was it, heat-resistant sheets for Moon Energy? So heat-resistant sheets are on Pole 7 Rail 3. I did that wrong anyway. That's Rail 7, Pole 7 Rail 3. Oops. Well, in this case, the multi-rail bug was saving our butts, so we'll delete this. Give me a second. Rail 2 is what I meant to do. What? No, you're connected. Just go. Just continue down the line. Oh, this game. Alright, let me save and load again. Yep, I can already hear them moving. There they go. Good grief. Alright, I'm gonna drop off this extra glass into here. Why not? And we're gonna set up a second set of OCLs over here for heat-resistant sheets. One, two, three. Four rail connectors here, here, Here. Here. There we go. So this is going to come from rail 3, which is why I had to move that over. So this is going to just go straight through here. This will go here, and here, and here. Whoops. And here. Perfect. Now I just got to point these in the right direction. So moon energy, we're delivering heat-resistant sheets. We'll probably have to save and reload again. Unavailable items, so let me save and reload. Absolute madness, but there we go. We've got teal lights. We're awaiting items. We should see them flying down the line here in a second. And there they are. They're coming from the top row. Now, again, the rail bug means that they're sharing the same rail with the glass. So we're losing the efficiency of having a dedicated rail for each one of these at the moment. But we can only do what the game allows us to do for right now until it gets fixed. So we have 2 contracts being delivered. Let's go. I have not turned in the materials to unlock electronics yet, so let's go do that while those are on their way. Here we go. Electronics. Here's our synthetic silicone, inductor, stator. Electronics unlocked. So looking forward, we don't have the... Oh, we do have the blueprints for chemicals, actually. So that's going to require 600 synthetic silicon, 1,000 wolfram powder, and 2,000 helium-3. So we can start getting that stuff ready, because right now I've clogged up the end of our bus with OCL, so I can't actually add another level of manufacturing on just yet. So let's meet back up in a little bit once these are delivered and ready to be destroyed and get out of the way. So I don't actually have enough inventory space to hold all of these deliverables at once, just because there's so many of each. So we have 2,000 helium-3 here. And then I'm going to need to pick up 1,000 wolfram powder, but I wanted to get all that out of my inventory first. So let me go run and get that wolfram powder, and we'll be set up for chemicals, and then we can actually build our manufacturing for electronics and chemicals at the same time. Alright, and there's our 1,000 wolfram powder, so we have access to chemicals now. So let's go ahead and set up another row of manufacturing. Actually, we have to wait. We still have to wait. We're not done with our delivery yet. Damn it. Here they are. Alright, we're also tapped out on heat-resistant sheets, and I did look at our spreadsheet, and we're going to need these for some manufacturing that's coming up for the mega press. I'm going to go ahead and double up production of our heat-resistant sheets as well. Luckily, this one I don't have to refinagle because we already have it coming into a rail modulator and then into a rail connector. So we can easily just grab this, pop this down here. We do have to build a second deck, so let's get that going as well.
The cargo reached its destination.
Hey, there's one down.
Selenium thanks you for the order.
One,
Your work
2,
is
3,
restoring
4.
their faith in the prison system.
Well, I'm glad I could restore their faith in exploiting the labor and freedom of prisoners. Alright. Stretch this across. Get this in here somehow. There we go. And there. I guess we'll leave our ladder for now. Bring that back. build another furnace right behind this one. Rail connector. Rail connector's already there. You need to upgrade this to a rail connector. Going up. There we go. Alright, and then just connect everything up. Bring this back. We'll see if we have to save and reload. Cool. So this is going to be heat-resistant sheets. Awaiting items, we're good. Okay, so we'll double up on that. We've already doubled up on glass. We just finished our delivery to Selenium Corporation, right? Yeah, okay. So let's delete this row. Two, three, four, and these. Beautiful. But in the meantime, we can at least start constructing the actual decks. So we have one level available here. So let's drop a furnace up here. We want this right here. And a storage depot next to it. And we want a rail connector in the back. And we know that we want a rail connector in the front as well. And a rail modulator leading into it. Like so. Connect this up. And our output. So. Get back up here. I've been putting ladders on here. On the front, right here. Well, actually... no, that should be fine, actually, because we're going to put a rail support right here. Yeah. That'll handle the output. Nope, that's exactly where it used to go, and then this will go all the way down to the end. But for right now, not worried about that yet. So we're going to be making electronics here, I believe.
Necesito agua.
You're always thirsty. You're literally the thirstiest person on the entire planet. Because you're the only person on the entire planet. I want to get rid of some of these lower tier things, so we'll just drop a couple of these. We'll drop a calorie bar. There we go. I do need to heal at some point as well, but what were we doing? We're going to set this... We set this to electronics, so we need to bring up synthetic silicon, inductors, and stators. So let's look over here. We know that we're going to need a multi-rail set up here. And down here, for the way that we're currently doing our rail harnesses to bring stuff up to the second floor. So we'll get that set up. 1, 2, 3. Bring it across. Oop, I missed. Like so. Now, coming down to our line here, we've got synthetic silicon, which is actually here. So how do we want to set that up? I guess we can do... We actually didn't put this on our line at all yet. So that's a perfect opportunity to get that set up as well. So we're going to need to get rid of this block here. This rail support is going to go down, because it needs to get brought under the line. And then once we get to here, rather than put it on with a rail support, we'll put it on with a rail connector. We'll bring this down. Colliding with another building. Are we? Oh, right. We have to get rid of this. Oops. There we go. Now we can drop a rail connector in here. Bring it down. That should be fine. We'll bring this across. bring this up onto our final rail. So starting with actually... with electronics, we'll have to start reusing lines. So our next available line is going to be here on pole 2, because this pole has titanium bars, wolfram bars, and calcium blocks, and we're done with all of those. So there's nothing currently running on this line this far down. So we'll actually get rid of this for later, because that's going to connect down to that. But before we get to that point, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We need to bring this back to our rail connector here. We could do it that way. I think it looks a bit silly, even though I claim to not care about rail beauty anymore. We're gonna drop this in here. I gotta have some standards. There we go. So now we have silicon hooked up. We need inductors, right? Which is here. So inductors are on rail 2. If we bring this down, yep, rail 2. So we'll interrupt this line here. And before I do that, let me just double check again. Stators. Stators are rail 1. So everything we're doing is going to be on rail, or pole 8. So we need all 3 of these rails, which is going to be interesting. I may need to move this back a bit. Actually, I'm definitely going to need to bring this back a bit, because this is going to need, both of these are going to need to go down and then back up again. So let's rewind a bit. Let's kill both of these rails. Let's get rid of this. Let's see what we can do here. So we can get rid of this. I think we can do 1 and 2. I'll bring this down. Let's bring it all the way down. Make sure we definitely have enough room. We'll go down to here. This will be rail 1. Bring this back up to rail 1. Is that going to work? I may want to do that as rail 2 and this as rail 1. Because otherwise this is going to have to cross over rail 1 to get back to rail 2, and it's going to conflict. So, we'll put another rail connector here. Bring it down. Let me see if I can get rail 1, or... yeah, let me see if I can get rail 1 into that. This will be rail 2 instead of rail 1. We can. Perfect. So this will then go back into rail 1. This will go rail 2. And then both of these plus... oh god. Plus... where are we bringing this in at? Because this is also going to have to cross. Yeah, that's no bueno. Actually, I'm surprised it won't let me do that. And that is not actually colliding, but I think this might be in that rail space, even though they don't physically touch. Let's see. What can I do here? I'm gonna get rid of all of these. See how far we can bring this forward. That's valid. If we bring it up and then down, so that works. That also works. Can we get this in here? No. Unfortunate. Can we bring this down, bring this all the way down, rotate it, and then bring that in? That works. That does work. So then we can do 2 and hopefully 3. No, that's all right. This should work. This should work. This and 2, this and 3. There we go. Okay. Everything's flowing. So our silicon's coming in on this rail, hitting this connector, going up, flowing down this way through this. 1 and 2. Actually, is this one necessary? Can we... well, maybe. Because of the way this is twisted. We may be able to do without this. we go. Fill our holes. And then rail 1 comes through this rail, hits this rail connector, split into here, and then moves forward to rail 1. Yep. Just double check on our work here. Rail 2 hits this connector, continues on to rail 2. All right, and then this brings everything up. So we should be good here. Of course, we're probably going to have to save and reload because we have unavailable items here. So let's do that real quick. After we set this to electronics, make sure that everything is good here. And we are. Perfect. Okay, so this will be manufacturing electronics. We just need to deal with our output here. So this is going to go into a rail connector, and then we're going into rail 2. We can actually just do it directly. We don't need any kind of additional rail support. I don't know if this is going to interfere with our ability to use this ladder or not. Not really. Perfect. Okay. So I'll update the spreadsheet. We now have electronics. I think it's currently showing as pole 9, but that is not going to be the case for us here, because we're going to try to make this, we're going to try to condense everything onto 8 rails instead of the 16 rails in the spreadsheet. So there we go. I see electronics flowing in. What is the manufacturing rate of this? 5 seconds for 1 electronic. Okay. Well, I can almost guarantee you we're going to need to make them faster than that. So let's go ahead and set up a second furnace here. This means we're going to need to double up our top deck here. So we're going to start down here with the poles again, the pillars again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 2, 3, 4. Like so. There we go. And bring this back by 2. There's our deck. Here's our second furnace. Where'd it go? It cut the hole out for it. Where's our furnace? Oh, it deleted the other furnace too. What just happened? I'll have to watch the replay on that. Did I don't think I was using the delete tool. Well, that was an interesting thing to happen. Let's put that back in, I guess. 1. This is the wrong way around. Oops. I could see it maybe not placing, I was doing that off-axis thing again, not placing the second one, but it also deleted the first one, which is extra weird. So I think we fix this by right-clicking. Yeah, there we go. I don't know why that happens. I don't know why you have the option of offsetting the placement of buildings by half a tile, but that's the solution if you get into that wonky half-tile mode. Is that right? I believe that's right. We do have to get rid of... No, that is not right. These are off by 1. Are they? Yes. What is going on? Something extremely weird is going on. I can't get this lined up with the existing, even right-clicking. It won't line up properly. It's always off by half a tile in one direction or another. Hang on, let me back out of this. Okay, now we're lined up again. Here. There we go. Building is not oh, our deck got destroyed. Oh, did something, I think what might have happened is a platform here got destroyed, and with that platform destroyed, that pillar was no longer supporting the deck that the furnace was built on, and everything got deleted. I might have just placed that in the wrong location, maybe? Who knows? At any rate, we're back in business. I just need to connect our rails back up, so rail connectors everywhere. I don't know how our storage depot would have gotten disconnected, because our storage depot is almost physically connected to a pillar. There we go. Rails.
Delivered.
There we go.
Energy Corporation thanks you for your shipment. You can claim your reward in the corporate terminal.
Everything's coming together. Alright, we'll set both of these to electronics, right? Electronics. Electronics. We gotta save and reload again because we have a... Yeah, they're not registering. Unfortunate. Alright, save and reload. Uh-oh. That said 12 hours. No! Oh. Okay, well, I just found another fun thing. If you filled up all of your save slots, and I want to save over slot 1 here, if I hit save in slot 1, and I hit save game, notice this says 12 hours here, so we're at a 31-hour playthrough. If I hit our 12-hour slot here, I hit save game, I hit overwrite. It didn't actually overwrite it, it just moved everything down 1. So our save is actually right here. Well, our latest save is right here because I had to reload a backup. But this is the save that we want to load right here, not this. I don't know why it's like that. If I select this slot and I hit overwrite this slot, it should not put it at this slot here. So let's go to load this save, load game. Things are still backed up. So what have I done wrong here? This is a stator is waiting to go into this machine that is awaiting stators. There's nothing wrong here. Let's try deleting this rail. And bringing this rail back into here. Nope. Why is it doing this? It keeps sticking it at the end. Okay, things are still not happy here. Can I just pull these off the line? Oh, they're bugged. Oh no. Are they all like this? Enough of them? Oh no. Alright, I may have to reload an earlier save. Because things are bad. Things are not happy. Alright, let's load 31 hours 4 minutes load. Okay, I think this was our initial setup of this. Yeah, here comes our initial buffer fill of stators and inductors. Okay, let me just reproduce the last couple of minutes of effort here. Alright, platform. There we go. We're gonna build another rail connector here. Yeah, it does not like me placing a rail connector there for some reason. That destroyed the furnace again. It's not interfering with a pillar. I don't know why that destroys the furnace. What's happening? Alright, I've completely closed and reloaded the game. But before I even build the deck this time, I'm going to place a rail connector right here. Okay. That's fine. Let's get rid of the ladder. So far, so good. Now we do an extra 2 hanging off the back here. To match what we already have here. Now, the moment of truth. The furnace. Okay. It might have just been... It might have just needed a full reload. Because everything seems to be behaving now, so we'll bring this back. Connect this through. Drop another rail connector here. There we go. Had a little hiccup, but we're good now. These are awaiting items, so they are flowing through. Here comes the parade of inductors, which we may also need to double up on at some point. We'll see. Seems to be alright for now. And what else we have here? Stators and silicone. Perfect. Okay. There we go. So now we're getting 2 electronics every 5 seconds. And then we were putting this onto rail 1 of pole 2 there. That's right. Let's recreate that. Alright. Crisis averted. Now, I think we do need to now wait a little bit longer for our future health solutions delivery, because we'd have to reload. So we'll let that run for a bit. I guess we can start building the deck for chemicals now. Assuming everything behaves. Pillar support. We're going to lock this to this height. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this will be our next row of rail supports. So 5 tiles in between. And we'll come back and put pillars here. 1, 2. 1, 2. There we go. And let's pre-build our second deck this time. So we'll need to drop this down. So we're going to need, it looks like maybe two spaces. Let's drop our Y. This needs to be here, potentially, I believe. So, like this, and then 1, 2... Yeah, so this is actually the perfect use case for our 4th pillar trick. So let's build our supported platform. It's going to need to be at this height. So we'll lock this here. Put this here. And now we can do 1, 2, 3. I'm actually going to do that twice because this is a back left platform here. So this, and then 1, 2, 3. And now we should be able to cover this entire area with platform. Plus 2 more rows. And we can't do anything here yet, but I can bring this forward to here just to kind of put the suggestion of what needs to be done shortly here. There we go. Just like that. So we can work underneath here while this is in the way. So we'll build our furnace facing this way and set back 1. Building not stable. Really? Uh-oh. Can we pre-pillar it? We should be able to just do a deck, right? So we want a pillar, we want a supported platform up to this height. Yeah, that's our issue there.
Delivered.
There we
The
go.
Energy Corporation thanks you for your shipment. You can claim your reward in the corporate terminal.
Let's lock this here. Let's go back to here, I believe, because they're 3 by 4, right? So here and here, then here and here, and then we should be able to do platforms like this, and then we should be able to build our furnace here. That delay scared me. Did something break? It deleted a furnace. It wasn't even touching that. Why did it delete that furnace? No. I think we might be hitting some kind of internal limit here. Something very bad is happening with our upper deck. We weren't even touching that. We placed this on a completely separate construction that is not sharing. Well, I guess maybe we're touching this pillar. We completely ruined it. So, man, I should have saved after I fixed that upper deck. All right, let me reload again. Okay, I rebuilt the furnace for the 3rd or 4th time here. So what I think I might try to do is I think this construction is probably getting large enough that every time I attach something new to it, it's having to refresh the structural calculation for the entire bus here. So I'm hoping that if I just put like a gap of 1 space in between here and set up our next deck as kind of a different building structurally, that we'll be able to avoid having to touch any of the structural calculations for all of this every time we put new tiles onto our continued line here. The only place that they'll really have to touch is the rails coming forward, but I don't know if rails count as structural tiles, but we'll see how this shakes out. So I'm going to match this to here. We're going to skip 1 tile here. Go 1, 2, 3. This is too tall. So again, we're going to have to do our 4 tile trick here. So a supported platform at the lowest height. Is that going to work? Is that going to be correct? 1, 2, 3. That is the correct height, yes. And then another one Lock that there. Go here. 1, 2, and 3. We don't actually have to go back this far unless we want to build a second one of these, but I'm just getting it ready in advance because I do want to see if we can get this built without touching anything here, without breaking any of this. We want to go put 5 tiles in between here. This needs to come up to this level. Lock our Z. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one more. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll probably have to do our 4th tile trick here. So let's put this here, lock the Z, put one here, put one here. Pillar supports, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So far, so good. Platforms. That should... Oh, we need a second row of here. That's right. Forgetting how to build my own structure. Alright. Need a second set of these in the back. Here and here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Oops. I might have just screwed myself. Let's see. This should not touch. This is not supposed to touch. Triage. We're doing triage here. Everything seems okay-ish. Our furnaces didn't break. Let's get rid of this. I got a little bit too excited there. I built more than I needed to. Luckily, I don't see anything else. There were no casualties this time that really mattered. Just some platforms here. This fell off. Alright, so it seems like that's the ticket. Is after a certain point, you need to just put a little space in. Give your mega constructions a little breathing room here so that they're separate structural calculations. So hopefully now I can delete these. Oh, we lost this too. So you can put this back in without causing chaos. We can. Everything's zooming now that we've got some higher level constructions going. I love seeing it all flowing along. So we're going to need to reproduce this without touching. So, like this. Lock that Y, or that Z even. Yep, that's the right level. And we gotta bring this up 1. Oh. And then down 1. Perfect. And then same here. Lock it. Bring it forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we're getting into some trouble here. The elevation change is gonna cause us some issues going forward, so we may need to find somewhere that we can turn this. I think after this stack here, we'll have to turn this 90 degrees and head this direction. There's plenty of flat space out here to work with. So that should be fine, because I think we have to, based on my spreadsheet, we need to get to like stack 24, stack 23, something like that. But for right now, this needs to go up 1 and then down 1. Hopefully that doesn't cause us any issues. Drag this across as much as it'll let us. We can build into the ground there, but it'd probably not be a great idea to do so. And then, hopefully, moment of truth here. In fact, I may make a new save for this. Can we cross the streams without breaking everything? Yes, I can tell by how quickly that happened. There was no visual stutter, that there was no structural calculation happening in the background there. So there we go. That's the fix for that issue. Every so many rows, every so many stacks, skip a tile. Just gotta connect all these through now. Perfect. Now, for the next challenge, can we drop a furnace in here without breaking everything again? Furnace. Building is not stable, so we're gonna have to put in some pillars again. So let's see here. We need this to get up to this level here. So it seems like we should be able to... Oh no, we do need to put a... You have to be careful. The reason I'm doing the supported platforms instead of pillar support is you have to be careful when you're putting pillar supports at flush with the ground, because you can actually put them in positions where you cannot delete them again if you mess up. They just won't highlight with the destruct tool. There we go. Let's try this. So, furnace facing this way. We're not touching, but we do have rails connected, so let's see how this works. Place. Nope, that happened immediately, so yeah, I did not have to query 1,000 different tiles to make sure that everything was supported correctly. Let's make sure that we can place our storage depot. Yes. Alright. Stretch a platform across. Drop a rail connector in the back. One in the front. We have not built our top deck yet, so let's get that done. Pillar support. Or for the rail portion anyway. We built it for the manufacturing portion, so we'll bring this forward to here. Up. Stretch this across. We don't actually want to bring that across. That would be a very bad mistake. Alright. So we're going to do this here. We need to make sure that these do not touch. So, platform. Bring this across here. Bring this across here. Perfect. I'm not going to set up the harness to bring rails up here just yet because we don't have anything for this deck yet. So I do need to connect rails. Output. Input. We need to set this to chemicals. Set this to chemicals.
Ruptura activity
No!
detected.
I was busy. So chemicals. See if we can do this quickly. Chemicals are synthetic silicon, wolfram powder, and helium-3. Well, we know that we're going to need a rail modulator here. Bring it down 1. Connect this to here. Connect this to here. So helium-3 is actually here. That's actually going to need to go down... Let's bring this down one more. One more, or a few more. We're going to send that rail over this, so like this, and then up, and then down 1, 2, 3, maybe? But we can do a rail connector here, and go down 1. We're going to grab rail 1 for helium, send it into here, and send that on through, and wrap this around like this. There we go. That works perfectly. And then up here. Oh, wave warning. We gotta go.
The planet is being incinerated.
Yeah. Alright, where were we before we were so rudely interrupted by the sun? So we got... This was helium-3. Then we needed wolfram powder, which is on pole 6, rail 2. So 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's take this down. Rail connector. Down... Well, let's go... We need to get something from pole 8 as well, so let's go down more. And then we'll grab rail 2. Yeah, wolfram powder, rail 2. Send this on through, rail 2. Send this back over this way. Let's say here? Or here? We'll find out when we get this one put in, because we're going to need rail 8. This is going to need to be as high up as we can get it. And this is going to be synthetic silicone off of rail 3. See, can we connect this through? We can. Perfect. Okay, and then we'll send this through back to rail 3. And this is going to go back to rail... Oh, it's already on rail 2. Let's just make sure this connects through with no issues. Whoops. That one went a little crazy. You to you. Okay, perfect. So now we have all 3 of our ingredients coming in here. Let me just make sure that our recipe is set here, because we'll probably need to save and reload to get things flowing here. So, quick save. Green light, very good. Not used to there not being any music in this part. Just make sure everything arrives. Here is helium. And there's wolfram powder, alright. So we got a little crowding at the beginning here while the initial input buffers fill up. But that should settle down in a bit. So I'm going to connect the rest of these rails through. Then we're going to set up delivery for our mega press, because I do want to touch on that for this episode. So let's get our rails set up. Perfect. Alright, everything's flowing through. So, let's get back and see what we need to deliver for our next rank of Selenium Corporation. Oh yeah, we have a Moon Energy to pick up as well. So Moon Energy, we're going to grab Base Core Amplifier. Thank you very much. Selenium Corporation is going to give us the Large Habitat. Ooh, we can play with that. And for the next rank, we're going to need Electronics and Synthetic Silicone, which we have both of. For Clever Robotics, we cannot deliver anything yet. Unfortunate, because I would like to get my hands on this Storage Depot V2. Oh, we actually have to go all the way to level 10 for the 5 rail multi-rail. Let's just do a quick one-over. We can deliver Future Health for some LEMs. Although we do need to go through LEMs to get to the compounder, because that's going to give us access to some more new materials here. Synthetic resin, liquid helium, lens, nanofiber, ion injectors, and superconductors. Griffith's Blue. I'm not in a big hurry to do anything with Griffith's Blue. The combat is not really an important part of this game yet, although I did run into some particularly nasty resistance when heading out. I believe the base was like Copperfield or something like that, but just gigantic juggernaut bugs that gave me a little bit of problem. But Moon Energy is also going to want chemicals for, again, a LEM. Kind of meh, but we need to go through that for more solar generators. So yeah, we're gonna set up Selenium Corporation. That'll give us access to the Mega Press. So we're gonna give them electronics. Let's go get that set up. Alright, I did actually manage to double up electronics manufacturing before we had to break things off here, so that should be delivering twice as fast. So that's on rail 1 of pole 2. I'm actually gonna build this off, well, Build it off maybe on this side this time. That way we don't interfere with our ability to push forward here, even though we're not really... Well, I do want to put a mega press here, but I think that'll go on the top deck because that's the next thing that's available. So let me grab pole 2, or pole... rail 1 of pole 2. We're going to drag this all the way over to here for now. And I'm going to set up some OCLs. There we go. And let's just set these to deliver. So, Selenium Corporation, they're going to give us 116 for electronics. Alright, these are all listed as unavailable items, so let me save and reload. Even though they shouldn't be traveling that far, they're just going from there down here and then into this rail. Let me just make sure this is connected through properly. We have rail 1 of pole 2, which connects to here and to that storage depot. Yep, that's the way it should be. So let's do this again. There they go. Okay, all better. Delivering. Perfect. Alright, well now we're just going to wait for 116k worth of electronics to be delivered, and then we'll be able to access the Mega Press. So let's meet back up in just a bit. Alright, I heard the announcement. So, Selenium Corporation is ready to turn in for our Mega Press. What? No witty one-liner? Alright, let's take a look. We got access to the base core amplifier, which we don't really need. Also, it's an expensive intermediate building material build. We did get the large habitat, which is absolutely enormous. I don't know what we're going to need it for just yet, though.
I'm withering.
Oh, would you relax? Here, have some Nutrigel.
Delicious.
That's right. So, we just unlocked the Mega Press. Oh, she's a big girl. And has 4 rails in, 1 rail out. Alright, let's go see if we can squeeze this onto our line. We're going to break down our current OCLs here. Get back our electronics. I should probably stick those back in the storage depot as well. Clean all this up. Alright. So, let's go into drone mode. Ignore all that back there. That's nothing. And we're going to set down a Mega Press. So this needs to be aligned to here, it looks like. That's actually... Oh, it's 4 wide. You know what? We do have 1 length, 1 square of excess width in between our rows, so we can actually get away with offsetting this by 1. Whoa, what was that? Well, it doesn't need to collide with another building, it just needs to go there. Perfect. And then, set up our storage depot right next to it, in the usual spot. But now we have the added difficulty that we need to get 4 rails worth of materials in here. So we don't have the 5 rail multi-rail, so we're just going to do this on 3. And we're going to need to modulate this at some point. But let's get this set up. So there's going to be a little bit of congestion on this. So let's drop this down as far as it'll go. There is... This actually needs to go out here, so we'll go up, right? Now it goes right here. But that space is currently being taken up by a multi-rail connector, so I might move that. But for right now, we'll set this up here, drop this down by 1, 2. Get that below our bus level. We're going to move this forward, so this is pulling off rail 3 and going back on rail 3, so we're going to take this. We're going to move this over 1. because we need that spot. Rail 3 to... oh, of course. Alright, let's play the game. How do we make it connect? Need to go extra low. Rail 3. So rail 3. Here, we'll have to drop in... a rail connector. Let's go down to here. Is that valid? Here and then up to here. That's fine. I just don't know about this because I need to get a rail modulator here. And that's not really gonna work for us. So let's do this. That's going to connect to there, which is also going to be problematic. So let's break this. Let's put our rail modulator here first. And then we know what we need to route around. Do we need a rail modulator here? No, we need... well, kind of. Because we need to squeeze 4 input rails into 3 input rails. So let me set this up. And we'll walk back to that. So here's our 3 input rails. I suppose we could technically do 3 input rails and then 1 rail support, right? This should be fine. Just we need to do a little bit more. We need to manage our wires or our rails a little bit more tightly in here because now we have more rails that need to go in. But here's our 4 rails. And I think what I'll do... How do we squeeze this from 4 to 3? Or do we do our rail modulator down here? Nah, we'll do it up here. I think it looks nicer with the whole harness coming up on the side. So we'll do this up here. We'll do this like this. We'll do 3 to 1 here. No, we don't need to do that. Rail modulator to here. And then a rail support here. Let's see if we can make this work. And we know our rail connector is going to need to go, I guess, here now. Now, this might be an issue. Because if we ever delete this, if we put this here, this replaces that platform. But if we ever delete that platform, now we have an issue. Because it's no longer going to consider all of these adjacent tiles to be resting on this pillar. But that's a problem for future us. Never mind. It did it anyway. No. That was a different issue. Oh no. Alright. Reload. Oh man. 32 hours, 1 minute load. Okay, we have our mega press. We don't have our wiring harness yet. Alright, we're gonna do a rail connector up here. We're gonna make this a lot simpler. We're just gonna do a rail connector. We're gonna do 2 rail supports like we did before. This needs to come down 1, 2. This will be at level. Rail to here. Rail to here. Oh wait, this needs to be a modulator. This needs to be a modulator. Oops. Alright. Rail modulator. this direction, like so. Rail V2s. And we can still have that wiring harness look, but it's actually being condensed down to one rail here instead of one rail over here. So we'll place this here. Now again, we have the issue that if I put this here, it's going to destroy a bunch of stuff for some reason, so I guess we drop it back one? Let's drop it back one to here, see if this causes chaos. No chaos. Put this here. Okay, everything's behaving for now. So we'll bring this straight across. Then this can go to here. That way we can bring this back this way for additional mega presses, and we can go just directly into here for the input into this mega press. So far, so good. Alright, so let's see what we're actually manufacturing here. We don't even know if we need all 4 lines here. So, we've got access to impellers. So that's going to be titanium rods, heat-resistant sheets, wolfram plates, and stabilizers. Let's get this set up. Impellers. So, starting with titanium rods are on pole 3, rail 1. Pole 3, rail 1 is here. So we'll take this down. Oh, no, that. And all this, no, this auto saved when this was still broken, so we need to fix that as well. So I believe, what was our plan? We were bringing it over to here on a rail support. Let's do rail V2, bring this forward. This is going to go back onto rail 3 on pole 8. Make this as low as we can get it. And then bring it up. Of course we can't. But we can do this. That'll have to do, because we need to bring stuff over to here. And we already may not have enough space to do that, but let's see. Can we go from here to here? That gets that a little bit more out of the way. So we can't use this space because there's a rail running through it, but we can use this space to bring down a rail connector. And we probably want this to be as low as we can go. No, we need this to go there. That might actually work. As long as that can connect to here over this rail, which it might have some issues with, so we'll go up 1. Bring this rail down to here. Bring this back up to rail 1. And then let's get this as far to the right as we can go. There we go. That's 1. Heat-resistant sheets is pole 7. But let's skip that for now. Let's get everything. Let's get all the stuff that's closer to the manufacturing line. So we've got wolfram plates. It's on pole 4, rail 2. So let's grab that next. Pole 1, 2, 3, 4, rail number 2. And can we do this under here? Can we do a sneaky? We can get in, can we get back out? Let's see, how can we get this over here? We might have to go under. Can we go here, but down? Might have to do it here. There we go. What? Why'd you let me place it there, then? Here, try that again. You here. You here. Bring this all the way down. And then up to here. And again, we still need to fix this, right? I don't even know where this is going anymore. Oh, this is going... This is going into here. Right. I don't think it's going to go into there anymore. We do this, and then bring this up one level. No. Things are getting a little noodly in here. So what we may have to do is just share this input. Like so. Where was this even coming from? Was this... This must have been here, because it's going back onto here, so like this. Yeah. That looks right. Okay. So we have both of these going this direction. I'm not in love with that solution, but it does work. So, back to the problem at hand. So we've got this coming down. This needs to go back onto rail 2. So it hits this, comes over here, pops up into this position. Okay, perfect. So next we need stabilizers. Stabilizer is further back than heat resistant sheet. So stabilizer is pull 5, rail 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, rail 3. And we're gonna have to go all the way out here. To see if that'll be enough height. Rail 3, it is. And then we have to get it back through this rat's nest. This is why I wanted everything to be handled under the rail, because you don't really see it when you're looking, you know, at eye level. But if you look down below, it's a bit of a mess. In fact, I might take this back off. And go right up to the edge here with a rail support.
I'm detecting increased
Can you not?
Artura activity.
I'm in the middle of
Prepare
something.
for
Come
the
on.
wave.
There we go. Now can we squeeze this through? Can go here. That is pushing us dangerously out to the side. There we go. There's 3 out of 4. Or, yeah, 3 out of 4. And then we just need, what's the last thing? Heat-resistant sheets. Which is pull 7, rail 3. So right here, pull 7, rail 3. Can we even put one more thing in here at all? We might need to skedaddle here for a minute. Alright, let's see what we can do here. So I'm gonna get rid of this tile. I said I'm gonna get rid of this tile. There we go. And then we're gonna drop down a rail support. Something like this. I need this rail to go as far forward as possible. To get over all of this mess. There we go. So we can grab it there. Which means that we can then grab this. Let me get out of the mess. We're just making it worse. And we'll go in with the drone. There we go. Work smart. So we're going to U-turn like here. Can we U-turn here? Try to put this on the same Z-axis. Z level. For our U-turn. And then we go back into here. Oh my god, perfect. We did it. Actually, no, we didn't do it, because now I need to get this back on here. So this needs to not be a rail support. It needs to be a rail connector. Had a little brain fart there. Try that again. Here to here. Now it can go forward. And we can go there. And I wonder if that would actually be able to go straight in there? Not quite. Alright. Reroute it is. At any rate, there's all 4 of our materials. Up through the rail harness. Modulated together. Brought across. So now, hopefully... Oh god, I'm in the mess. I'm in the rat's nest. We brought everything back together, right? Or back forward. I see 3, I see 3, I see 3. We did not get this. You go forward. 3, 3, 3, and 3. Okay, so everything else is here. So let me get back up top. There needs to be a... I'm not sticking a ladder there. I'm not putting anything else. This is forever cemented the way that it is. I'm never touching that again. I do need to get up here, though, so I will stick a ladder temporarily here. There we go. And we need to connect the output of this all the way back here. We need to drop a rail connector whoop, right here. Please, you know what? I'm going to save it. I'm not even going to risk it. Save here. Overwrite. Just in case disaster strikes. Got the fear of God in me now, so we're gonna drop this here. Bring this forward to storage container. So this is what, impellers? Impellers. We'll set this to impellers. We're gonna save and reload. That should be everything we need for impellers. And green lights. All right. Let's wait for it all to come filtering in, make sure that we got everything. So I think we'll still get green lights even if there's an ingredient missing. Here it comes. There's our heat-resistant sheets. There's stabilizers. There's our traffic jam. There's Wolfram plates. And there's titanium rods. Alright. So once this initial buffer filling finishes up, this should, a lot of this traffic should disappear. Let's see the Mega Press Megally. Nice. It do be pressing. Alright, and here comes our impellers. Excellent. Yeah, things are moving much nicer now. Okay, so let's get back into the base. because I think that's everything that I wanted to cover in this episode. We don't have anything else to turn in here, so we do need impellers for the next level of Selenium Corporation, which will unlock the refinery and the sulfur extractor. So that'll be a good setup for the next episode. We'll have to do a little away mission to set up a base for extracting sulfur, and then some drones to bring it back to our main base, and then some refining to process those into some higher tier materials here. So helium-3 will become pressurized helium, and sulfur ore will become sulfuric acid. And we'll have to get those onto our bus, as well as rotating our bus 90 degrees, so we'll have to figure that out. And we also have the assembler coming up, as well as the compounder. So we're in the end game now. I think these are the last two manufacturing buildings, the assembler and the compounder. So we're nearing the end of the current technological tree, but each of these does have a number of ingredients, a number of manufacturable goods that we'll have to get through before we get to that point. But things are coming along nicely. We had a little hiccup today with the structural calculations of our assembly line. Things are starting to, I think, get a little frayed at the seams as far as the game engine goes. Luckily, I haven't had too many performance issues. Like, the frame rate's pretty steady. Nothing has broken downstream. Like, it would be a disaster if just, like, random things broke across the entire assembly line and then I had to go and debug every single rail. Luckily, all of the problems and the structural issues seem to be happening at the end where we're actually working. So everything for now is flowing smoothly. But besides that, we've got some more recipes to unlock, so we'll have to find some more blueprints. So I'm sure there will be some more bases that we'll have to go and explore. But I get the feeling that most people are just here for the manufacturing and the assembly line construction. The combat is not the core focus of the game. It's just kind of there as an extra consideration to give you something to build towards. Give you a reason to manufacture things. You're manufacturing bullets, you're delivering contracts in order to unlock access to weapons and war bonds. You're unlocking defense towers and things like that. So it does give you something, some kind of material sink for all of these things that you're constructing. But the actual, like, wandering around and shooting at bugs and looting 10,000 different drone wrecks and cargo pods inside of buildings, things like that, definitely not the highlight of the game. So I think I'm going to edit that down to a minimum unless something particularly interesting happens, like we'll do in this episode here. But I think that's what we're going to call it for this episode. So good progress today. We experimented with triple tier manufacturing, which I don't think is going to be a good option for this base, especially considering how many issues we're having with just two-tier manufacturing and routing rails for two tiers of manufacturing buildings.
The climate of Arcadia is returning to normal.
Do you mind? I'm trying to do an outro. Let's see, what else did we do in this episode? We unlocked 4 new materials and set up manufacturing for all 4 of them. We did, synthetic silicone, we did electronics, we did chemicals, and we did impellers. We unlocked the mega press, and found out just how annoying it's going to be to get 4 different items routed up to the mega press. Probably wouldn't have been as bad if we were able to do it down below, but we can see the spaghetti mess that we left behind getting this all working. But it is set up, and it is in a position where we can add additional mega presses behind that if we need to up our production of impellers, which I think will be our next deliverable. And yeah, I think that's it. We did a few more contract deliveries, but nothing particularly interesting. I may mess with the large habitats at some point, but that does require, I think, quartz building material, which we do not have set up yet. We'll have to unlock that recipe, but that'll be in a future episode, because that's going to be it for this one. So, if you've been enjoying this playthrough of StarRupture, hit like and subscribe. If you want to check out StarRupture for yourself, head on over to Steam and pick it up. And if you want to let me know what you think of the game so far, or have any comments on anything we did here today, then hit the comments down below. But whatever you do, I'll see you right here again in the next one. So, until then, bye-bye.